Have you ever noticed how someone's smile can tell an entire story? Look at Jeff Bezos in 2019, radiating genuine happiness, eyes sparkling, a Duchenne smile that screams authentic joy. The kind of happiness most of us spend our whole lives chasing. And now, fast forward to 2024. The same man, the same smile, but something's missing. There's a hollow shadow behind his eyes, a subtle tension in his posture, a quiet restraint in his laugh. What changed in those 5 years? What happened to the man who built Amazon by reading people better than almost anyone else on the planet? The answer isn't hidden in Amazon stock prices, business moves, or even boardroom dramas. It's in his personal life, in the choices he made after a divorce that shook the world and a wedding that cost more than the GDP of some small nations. Because even billionaires, men who seem to have everything, aren't immune to the oldest, most powerful dynamics in human relationships. Love, ambition, manipulation, and the silent cost of compromise. These are forces that don't care about net worth. By the end of this video, you'll see how Jeff Bezos, arguably one of the smartest people alive, fell into a relationship trap that millions unknowingly repeat every day. You'll discover why a $76 million wedding didn't bring him joy, why his authentic smile disappeared, and why the choices of those around him revealed truths no headline could capture. And here's the twist nobody's really talking about. The contrast isn't just in money, luxury, or status. It's in psychology, values, and the subtle ways we give pieces of ourselves away, sometimes for the glittering illusion of happiness, and sometimes for something much deeper we fail to recognize until it's gone. So stay with me, because what happened to Jeff Bezos isn't just a billionaire story. It's a cautionary tale, a psychological thriller disguised as high society glamour, and the lessons hidden here could change how you see your own relationships forever. January 2019 marked the end of an era. After 25 years together, Jeff Bezos and MacKenzie Scott announced their divorce, and the world couldn't look away. This wasn't just any split, it was the largest divorce settlement in human history, a staggering $38 billion handed over without a single courtroom battle. No bitter arguments, no headline-grabbing lawsuits, just a billionaire quietly relinquishing a quarter of his empire. But what made this moment truly remarkable wasn't the money, it was the story the money told. MacKenzie Scott didn't buy yachts, flash cars, or extravagant penthouses. Instead, she quietly began giving away billions, $19 billion, to organizations supporting marginalized communities, education, and social impact causes. Every donation was a statement, a silent declaration of values over wealth, purpose over possessions. For Jeff, the contrast was stark. The man who meticulously built Amazon by understanding human behavior better than anyone else suddenly found himself on the outside of a different kind of intelligence, one that couldn't be measured in shares or stock options. MacKenzie's actions revealed a deeper truth about relationships, happiness, and priorities, that sometimes the most powerful investments aren't in assets, but in human values. And here's the part most people miss. While headlines focused on the money, MacKenzie was quietly exposing a truth Jeff would only realize years later, a truth that would shape the rest of his personal life and, ultimately, the way the world would perceive his happiness. After the dust of the divorce settled, a new chapter began in Jeff Bezos' life, one that captured headlines and imaginations alike. Enter Lauren Sanchez, a former news anchor and helicopter pilot whose charm seemed to defy the billionaire world she had stepped into. In the early days of their romance, Lauren presented herself as fiercely independent. She refused lavish gifts, insisted on splitting bills, and made it clear she wasn't interested in Jeff's wealth. For a man used to constant flattery and transactional relationships, this was a revelation. For Jeff, it felt like something he hadn't experienced in years, genuine connection. Finally, someone seemed to see him, not the richest man alive, not the public persona, but the man himself. Paparazzi photos from early 2019 show Jeff's smile in all its authentic glory. His laughter was frequent, his posture relaxed, and his eyes sparkled in ways that only happen when happiness is real, not performative. The media quickly caught on. Headlines blared about the ultimate power couple, praising their chemistry and glamour. Vanity Fair, entertainment magazines, and society columns couldn't get enough. From red carpets to charity galas, Jeff and Lauren looked like a match made for the world stage. To everyone watching, it seemed like the billionaire had finally found the one thing money couldn't buy: love. But as the old saying goes, appearances can be deceiving. Beneath the surface of these early smiles and shared moments of joy, subtle patterns were beginning to emerge, patterns that would later reveal the hidden costs of even the most dazzling romances. What seemed like authentic connection in the public eye was quietly setting the stage for a psychological drama few could have predicted. At first, Lauren Sanchez's independence and refusal of lavish gifts made her seem refreshingly different from anyone Jeff had ever dated. But after the divorce settlement was finalized and $38 billion changed hands, subtle shifts began to appear. The woman who once insisted on splitting every bill slowly started accepting gifts, some small at first, others increasingly extravagant. And it wasn't just the gifts, her appearance began to change dramatically. Experts in cosmetic surgery estimate the procedures she underwent during this period could have cost anywhere from $500,000 to $2 million. This transformation wasn't merely aesthetic. It was a psychological signal, a shift in the dynamic of their relationship that Jeff might not have noticed at first. Psychologists call this the boiling frog effect. It's a gradual process where each new request or change seems reasonable compared to the last, making it difficult to recognize the bigger pattern of increasing demands. What starts as a few harmless indulgences can slowly reshape the balance of a relationship without either party realizing the full impact until much later. For someone like Jeff, who spent decades mastering human behavior in business, this pattern would have been familiar, except this time, the rules were different. The stakes weren't financial charts or market strategies. They were deeply personal, touching on emotions, trust, and the silent compromises that accumulate in any relationship. What appeared to outsiders as a glamorous romance was quietly revealing a different story, one of subtle influence, emotional recalibration, and the slow erosion of boundaries that once seemed firm. By the time these shifts were noticeable to the public, the stage was already set for the next act. A wedding so extravagant it would not only challenge Jeff's sense of privacy, but also reveal the stark contrast between love built on shared values and a relationship guided by spectacle. The story reaches its most dazzling and controversial chapter with the wedding itself. Jeff Bezos, a man who built his empire on long-term thinking and careful planning, initially envisioned something private and intimate. A simple ceremony, shared only with those closest to him. For Jeff, weddings were meant to celebrate love, not make headlines. But Lauren Sanchez had a different vision. She wanted nothing less than a 3-day extravaganza in Venice, a celebration that would cost an estimated $76 million, more than the annual budgets of some small nations. This wasn't just a wedding. It was a spectacle designed to showcase wealth, glamour, and status on a global stage. Every detail seemed meticulously orchestrated. From the 200-person guest list, including celebrities like Leonardo DiCaprio, Kim Kardashian, Oprah Winfrey, and Bill Gates, to the 27 designer outfits worn by Lauren, the event was a masterclass in high society opulence. Fashion experts estimate that her total wedding wardrobe alone exceeded $2 million. Social media became part of the performance. Professional managers were hired to capture and broadcast every moment, ensuring the world witnessed the couple's love, or at least the image of it. The private ceremony Jeff had dreamed of was replaced by a multi-million-dollar spectacle that prioritized optics over intimacy. Here, the clash of values became impossible to ignore: Jeff's preference for privacy and meaning versus Lauren's desire for visibility, status, and recognition. And this wasn't just a personal choice, it had public consequences. Venetian locals protested the disruption of their city, water taxis were rerouted, and entire neighborhoods were cordoned off for security. The lavish celebration that was meant to announce love to the world instead highlighted a growing disconnect between Jeff's values and the reality of the life he was funding. The wedding, dazzling as it was, set the stage for the next chapter. The psychological toll this spectacle would take on the world's richest man and the subtle cracks that would appear in his carefully curated public happiness. The Venice wedding, meant to be a pinnacle of love and luxury, quickly turned into a public relations nightmare. Local Venetians were outraged, streets blocked, water taxis rerouted, and neighborhoods cordoned off for security. What was supposed to be a celebration of intimacy became a disruption of an entire city. Headlines shifted from "Billionaire Wedding of the Century" to $76 million celebration sparks local protests, and the glittering illusion of romance began to crack. Inside Amazon, the timing couldn't have been worse. Thousands of employees were facing layoffs, and internal forums were buzzing with frustration. Comments ranged from disbelief to anger. "We're laying off 18,000 people, and Jeff spends $76 million on a party?" The optics were stark. While employees lost jobs, the founder's extravagance screamed privilege and detachment. The contrast between corporate austerity and personal excess painted a picture far removed from the careful, long-term thinking that had built Amazon's empire. To manage the fallout, Jeff was reportedly forced to make substantial charitable donations to Venetian cultural organizations, a move meant to appease local authorities and soothe public outrage. Yet, even these donations couldn't fully erase the perception that the wedding had become less about love and more about spectacle. The very event that was supposed to showcase Jeff's happiness now highlighted the growing gap between his values and the reality of his choices. Privacy, authenticity, and meaningful connection had been overshadowed by opulence, status, and media attention. This was a turning point, not just for the public narrative, but for Jeff himself. Photographers and analysts would later notice subtle shifts in his demeanor, the beginning signs of a man whose genuine joy was slowly being replaced by the weight of expectations, appearances, and social performance. As the dust settled from the Venetian extravaganza, subtle but telling, changes began to appear on Jeff Bezos's face. Early in his romance with Lauren, his smiles were Duchenne smiles, the rare kind that engage the eyes, radiate authenticity, and reveal true joy. By 2022 and 2023, those genuine expressions had largely disappeared, replaced by what psychologists call social smiles, expressions performed for the camera rather than felt in the heart. Body language experts noticed it immediately. His eyes no longer matched the movements of his mouth, his posture became increasingly rigid, and micro-expressions, fleeting facial cues that reveal inner stress, hinted at fatigue and emotional strain. What was once effortless happiness had become emotional labor, the exhausting work of performing feelings he didn't truly experience. Each photograph, each public appearance, became a careful balancing act, a performance meant to uphold appearances while masking the growing psychological toll beneath. Meanwhile, the contrast was striking. As Lauren's appearance became more dramatically enhanced through cosmetic procedures and designer wardrobes, Jeff's natural expressions grew more constrained. Her transformation projected confidence, ambition, and visibility. His response, quietly and unconsciously, was withdrawal, self-restraint, and the slow erosion of the authentic joy that had defined him just years earlier. This isn't just about a billionaire feeling stressed in the public eye. It's a vivid example of how relationships rooted in external motivations, status, spectacle, and appearance can quietly sap emotional well-being. Where MacKenzie had relied on shared values and authentic connection, this new chapter highlighted the human cost of performing happiness for a life built on image and external validation. The lessons are clear. Appearances can be deceiving, and even the wealthiest individuals are not immune to the subtle psychological consequences of mismatched values and priorities. For Jeff Bezos, the smile he now wears is no longer a reflection of freedom or joy. It's a mask, a carefully curated performance hiding the quiet toll of compromise and spectacle.